Imagine a glowing radar screen in a dark, quiet room.
Oh, yeah, like a classic movie scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is just an absolute web of overlapping lines, glowing green text, and all these moving dots. You are looking at dozens of commercial aircraft.
Right.
And they all have different speeds, different altitudes, entirely conflicting trajectories.
Mm.
But they're somehow occupying the exact same digital airspace. And there's like zero margin for error.
None at all.
Right. Now, I want you to take that exact level of high-stakes, spinning plates chaos, remove the airplanes, and replace them with vulnerable children in a crowded school hallway on, like, a random Tuesday morning.
That is quite the visual shift.
It really is.
Oh.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are looking at this incredibly unexpected but brilliant framework that maps the hyper-precise, calculating world of aviation onto the messy, unpredictable world of human problems.
It's a fascinating connection.
It is. Specifically, we're looking at a document titled, What a DSL Can Learn from an Air Traffic Controller.
Right. And for those tuning in who might not work in education or social services, DSL stands for Designated Safeguarding Lead.
Yeah, that's important context.
If you are in pastoral care or social work, you know this role intimately. A DSL is the person in a school or organization whose entire job is managing the safety, the well-being, and the often severe risks of vulnerable students.
It's just a relentlessly high-stakes position.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
A single dropped ball can have devastating real-world consequences. So the mission of our deep dive today is taking the discipline of managing the sky and bringing those lessons back down to Earth.
Yeah.
We want to fundamentally shift how we handle multiple ongoing crises.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because holding that image of the calm, quiet, highly controlled air traffic control tower up against a bustling, noisy school environment, it feels like total paradox.
It does seem like opposites.
Right. Sitting in a sterile room, tracking a Boeing 747 on a digital monitor seems like the exact opposite of sitting across from a very real, very unpredictable teenager in the middle of a mental health crisis. How do those two worlds actually connect?
Well, they connect through the fundamental nature of the responsibility. Whether you are an air traffic controller, an ATC, or a DSL, you can never afford to focus on just one single thing.
We're always juggling.
Exactly. You are constantly holding multiple simultaneous concerns. You're balancing different levels of risk, competing priorities, and rapidly evolving situations, all at the exact same millisecond.
Wow.
The environments might look completely different, sure, but the cognitive demand is identical. In both jobs, guessing is not a strategy. You cannot just wing it.
Which means we have to completely rethink our definition of what we're actually managing. I mean, if you can't just wing it, and you have dozens of moving targets, you have to move entirely away from the concept of case management.
Yeah, that is the first major mindset shift here. Air traffic controllers do not track one single plane. They maintain total situational awareness across the entire system. Translated into safeguarding, a DSL has to hold multiple cases at once without neglecting any single one of them.
So it's a strategic reframe.
Exactly. It's moving from case management to system management. And ATC's primary goal isn't actually to respond to mid-air collisions.
It's to ensure they never happen.
Precisely. To ensure they never happen in the first place by maintaining safe separation between risks.
You know, that makes me think of those classic arcade games. It sounds like the difference between just frantically playing whack-a-mole, like smashing whatever problem pops up right in front of your face, and trying to step back to actually understand the machine.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. And
Yeah.
if we take that analogy a step further, the DSL shouldn't be the player sweating with the mallet at all.
No.
No, the DSL is the mechanic who builds and monitors the whack-a-mole machine itself.
Okay, I like that.
You have to oversee the entire board to prevent the escalation. You aren't just reacting to the crisis of the moment, you are orchestrating the space between the crises so they don't collide.
But wait, if I'm a DSL, right, and I have one student sitting in my office in an immediate severe crisis, like a real emergency.
A crashing plane, essentially.
Exactly, a plane that is actively going down. Aren't I supposed to drop absolutely everything to save them? Doesn't hyper-focusing on that one student mean I'm doing my job perfectly in that moment?
Well, what's fascinating here is how this framework directly challenges that instinct. There is a deeply ingrained professional truth in high-reliability organizations.
Which is?
The risk is not just what you are dealing with, it is what you might be overlooking while doing so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you drop your entire radar to hyper-focus on one single crisis, you have effectively blinded yourself to the rest of the airspace. That tunnel vision is exactly how other relatively stable situations suddenly escalate into disasters.
So the pursuit of saving one case could actually be the exact mechanism that causes another case to fail.
Yes.
Like if you were locked in a room handling an emergency for 3 hours, you might completely miss the fact that another highly vulnerable student just walk out the front gates of the school.
Precisely. You have to handle the immediate emergency without losing your radar on the rest of the system. And that is why the immediate challenge becomes deciding where to look at any given millisecond.
Which sounds exhausting.
The mental toll of constantly making that decision is immense. The aviation world calls this dealing with fluid skies. A controller is constantly adjusting which aircraft needs attention right this second.
Like triaging.
Right. Deciding which one can hold its pattern for 5 minutes and which one needs drastic, immediate intervention.
And a standard to-do list is completely useless in that environment.
Oh, entirely.
You can't write down your top 3 tasks for the morning if the priorities have completely rearranged themselves based on a new piece of information or, a sudden disclosure from a student. It is incredibly fluid.
And that high information load causes massive cognitive strain. When you are constantly reassessing priorities, your working memory is stretched to its absolute limit. Neurologically, decision fatigue sets in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Every time you weigh one risk against another, you deplete a little bit of your cognitive resources. For an air traffic controller, that kind of fatigue directly increases the risk of a fatal error.
And for DSL.
For a safeguarding lead, emotional strain and decision fatigue are equally dangerous threats to the safety of the system. The professional truth from the text here is that safeguarding effectiveness isn't just about capability, it is heavily dictated by capacity.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if everything is fluid and everything is a priority, how does a safeguarding leader not just freeze up entirely?
It's a real danger.
I mean, saying someone needs more capacity often sounds like a polite corporate way of saying they desperately need a nap and a 2-week vacation. Is there an actual structural fix to this decision fatigue, or are we just doomed to burnout?
This raises an important question. And the fix requires a fundamental structural shift in leadership. It isn't just about getting more sleep or being tougher.
Right.
Leaders have to recognize their own cognitive limits and use structural systems to distribute the responsibility. The cognitive load of an entire school's safety cannot rest entirely on one fried brain.
So true.
The system itself has to carry some of the weight.
And that structural system, like the scaffolding that carries the weight, is protocol. We know that human brains suffer under pressure, which makes relying on individual brilliance or, quick thinking in the middle of a crisis a massive liability.
Exactly. The source material is very clear on this. Hook improvisation doesn't create flexibility under pressure, it creates risk.
It creates risk. Wow.
Human error is inevitable, and extreme pressure absolutely warps our judgment. That is why controllers follow incredibly strict protocols. It standardizes the response and drastically reduces variation.
Right.
Protocol is not bureaucracy. It is protection.
It's like the sheet music for a symphony orchestra. You have a massive group of musicians playing a highly complex classical piece. You do not want the horn section suddenly feeling inspired to improvise a jazz solo in the middle of a delicate Beethoven symphony.
No, you definitely don't.
It destroys the structure that everyone else is relying on to keep time and stay in harmony.
That's a perfect analogy. And in this context, that sheet music for a DSL looks like clear reporting pathways, structured responses to disclosures, and defined escalation processes.
Yeah.
And it heavily applies to communication, too. ATC communication is famously precise, it's standardized, and it is confirmed. When a controller gives an instruction, the pilot repeats it back.
Just totally eliminating the guesswork.
Exactly. There is zero ambiguity. Safeguarding communication has to be just as clear and direct. A misunderstanding isn't just an inconvenience here, it is a critical vulnerability.
But let me push back on this a bit.
Okay.
Doesn't enforcing rigid, standardized protocols strip away the human warmth?
I hear that a lot.
I mean, sitting across from a traumatized student isn't the same as pushing buttons on a flight console. Human crises require deep empathy. Doesn't this strict aviation model turn a compassionate caregiver into a cold bureaucrat?
It seems like it would, right. But the text makes a brilliant point here. Protocol actually protects empathy.
Oh, really? How so?
Think back to the cognitive strain we just discussed. If you are in a crisis and your brain is frantically trying to invent the process on the fly,
Like trying to remember who to call next.
exactly, trying to pull from your working memory who to call first, what specific legal form needs to be filed, what the exact timeline is, if you're doing all that, you have zero mental energy left to actually be present in the room with the person.
Right, you are entirely stuck in your own head.
Yes. By removing the cognitive burden of figuring out what to do next, the protocol frees up your working memory.
Oh, that makes total sense. If the steps are automatic, you can actually pay attention to the child's tone of voice, their body language, the nuances of what they are saying.
Precisely. The structure holds the process so the human can hold the relationship. You can deliver the empathy because the protocol is handling all the logistics.
I love that. But that friction between the rigid protocol and the necessary human empathy brings us to a crucial pivot in the source material, doesn't it? The exact point where the analogy hits a wall.
It does, because at the end of the day, humans are not airplanes.
They absolutely are not.
And this is the honest bit of applying aviation to safeguarding.
Yeah.
The document explicitly states what DSLs must not take from ATCs. Safeguarding is not a fully controllable environment.
Right.
Human behavior is infinitely more complex and far less predictable than an aircraft running on an instrument landing system. Plus, the emotional complexity adds massive layers that just don't exist in aviation.
Could you clarify what that means in this context? What makes an instrument landing system so different from what a DSL deals with?
Well, an instrument landing system is a highly precise radio navigation system. It provides aircraft with exact horizontal and vertical guidance down to the runway, regardless of weather or visibility.
Okay.
It is a predictable, mechanical, closed loop. If you input the correct data, the plane follows the path. A controller operates in that controlled environment with technical precision. And crucially, they get immediate feedback on their screens.
Whereas a DSL?
A DSL operates in a highly complex human environment characterized by variable behavior. They have to use relational judgment, not just technical precision. And the feedback is rarely immediate.
So what does this all mean? If humans are this wonderfully messy, traumatized, unpredictable species, does the aviation model completely fall apart here? Or do we just need a totally different kind of radar for human behavior?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the model doesn't fall apart at all. It evolves.
Okay, evolves how?
You keep the discipline of the ATC tower, the structure, the system-wide awareness, the protocol, but you apply it using relational judgment rather than pure technical precision. The source calls this building a system-aware safeguarding culture.
A system-aware safeguarding culture.
Yes. And to bridge that gap, leaders have to build this culture on 3 distinct pillars.
Well, let's break those pillars down, because this seems like the actual blueprint for making this work in reality.
Absolutely. The first pillar is foundations. These are the clear processes we've been talking about, the reporting mechanisms, the protocols. Every single person in the building needs to know exactly what the sheet music looks like.
So if a teacher notices a change in a student's behavior, they shouldn't have to wonder what the next step is.
Exactly. The foundation provides the immediate answer. It removes the guesswork.
And once you have the foundation, you need the people to actually execute it.
Which brings us to the second pillar, developmental pathways. You have to build confident staff. You can have the best protocol in the world, but if the staff are terrified of making a mistake, they will either overreact or underreact.
So what does a developmental pathway look like?
It means continuous training, not just a once-a-year seminar. It means giving staff the tools to recognize nuances in human behavior so their relational judgment becomes sharper and sharper over time.
Which leaves the third pillar. And honestly, this sounds like the hardest one to actually achieve in a constantly underfunded, understaffed environment.
You're talking about leadership capacity.
Yeah.
It is tough. This is about managing the workload so the system doesn't collapse under its own weight. It means leaders actively monitoring the cognitive load of their safeguarding teams.
Going back to that fried brain problem.
Exactly. If a DSL is carrying 50 high-risk cases simultaneously, no amount of protocol will save them from decision fatigue. Leadership capacity means having the courage to say, the system is overloaded, we need to redistribute this weight or planes are going to start falling.
It's really about bringing the strict discipline of the aviation tower into the warmth of the school, but doing it in a way that acknowledges the humans running the system need maintenance just as much as the system itself.
That is beautifully put.
And for you listening right now, whether you are managing a school's pastoral system or running a busy corporate department with a dozen competing projects, or honestly, just trying to keep your own chaotic family schedule from imploding this week. The core lesson here is incredibly universal.
It really
You
is.
have to stop reacting to individual emergencies and start managing the system as a whole. You have to build the machine, maintain the radar, and stop playing whack-a-mole with the crises in your life.
It all boils down to one fundamental question. The text actually leaves us with this exact reflection. Am I managing safeguarding or my life as a series of isolated individual cases, or as a system of multiple interconnected risks that must all be held safely at once?
That is the ultimate question. And it leads to a final provocative thought I want to leave you with, building on that profound difference between an air traffic controller and a leader managing human beings.
Yeah, the delayed outcomes.
Exactly. If an air traffic controller makes a mistake, or if they succeed brilliantly, they know instantly. The glowing dot on the radar updates, the feedback is immediate.
Right.
But in safeguarding, or in parenting, or in leadership, you might not see the outcome of a dropped plane for years. The feedback is profoundly delayed. A conversation you have with a vulnerable student today might not bear fruit until they are an adult a decade from now.
It's a heavy reality.
So how do we find peace and how do we measure our success in these roles when the absolute greatest victories we will ever achieve are the invisible disasters we quietly prevented?
That is quite the thought to ponder.
It is something to deeply consider the next time you feel like you're just managing chaos. Thank you for joining us as we explored the skies and the systems on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.